Anyway, thank you all for joining me. I am just going to show you here in the shop that I've added a couple of things that some of you may not have seen. Besides my detoxination coaching, which is something that is lifelong. I mean, as long as I'm able to do the coaching and you need to do other rounds, I'm going to be working with you. And we also have ongoing support during your program. And the workbook that's through Google Sheets will allow me to track your progress. So that has been there. Now, on the website, it's $4.99. I did reduce it recently. The group members of my Facebook group are going to be able to save another $100 by following instruction. I'll just leave it at that. The protocol training, this is basically in this version, the detoxination coaching, everybody gets about 90 minutes to 120 minutes of actual training with me, where we go through and make sure you have all your questions answered. We go through the protocol guidebook and we set up your workbook. So that's that Google Sheets workbook I just mentioned. With the protocol training, you're basically paying just for that orientation training meeting, and there's no workbook set up and there's no follow up. But in that case, if you need assistance, I have a retainer now that it's actually been up on the heal.me, but I just decided to put it up on the on my online shop. For $75, you'll have the ability to have a retainer that's an hour worth of time, and it's built in 15-minute increments. So if you only need a Zoom call for 15 minutes, you still have 45 remaining. But you also can use it as a question and answer. So you get up to 10 questions that I, over the course of your time on the program, that I'll be able to answer for you. So that is a $75 purchase, and it's a retainer. So essentially you can, use it as much as you need to. The rest of this has been up here for a while. The protocol guidebook is essentially the most updated version of the protocol at any given time. So before you start another round, or before you start your round, even if you have the book, the second edition of the book, you really want to go ahead and download this protocol guidebook, because there's some things that get added in here that once I have enough material, then I release another edition. So I finally got to a point where the second edition was definitely a requirement. But the protocol guidebook will always be the most updated material. And usually those updates are updates to improve the user experience and the efficacy of the protocol. So the protocol doesn't really have much in the way of changes. It's just that, like, recently we realized that L-arginine is something that can help open up the capillaries again, just like the niacin flush. However, the niacin flush comes with some strings, as some people know. You get that itchy, prickly sensation and things like that. Well, the L-arginine is not going to do that. It's going to allow you to actually have the vasodilation, which allows more of the red blood cells to pump any of the bloodborne toxins out to the dermal layers, where the sebaceous glands can then sweat them out. So that is an add that didn't make it into the second edition, but it's in the guidebook. And the way you get to it is you go to our book resources tab, which is right there, and you'll be asked to register. And please show a proof of purchase, either a picture of your book or a screenshot of the Kindle. And there's instructions on where to put that. So once I see that, I can approve you as a member, and you'll have access to be able to download this and some other forms, like the printed version of the log sheet. The video tutorial course has always been there. The Sauna Selector Guide is now updated with affiliate links, because I'm no longer a Clearlight dealer. Clearlight pulled my dealership because I was recommending other products, other saunas, and they went through and did house cleaning, and a lot of us lost our dealerships. I don't care, because frankly, there's a sauna for every need, and we want to make sure that we cover your budget, we cover your space requirements, your power requirements, and make sure that you are able to get a sauna that works for you, because even portables will work. So the Sauna Selector Guide has been updated with affiliate links rather than requesting a quote. The Detox Supply Kit is something that definitely anybody in the United States I can ship to. So this is to request a price quote with shipping. And then the detox support products are the other items, like the binders. And there's also some, well, I would click on these links, except I don't want to really spend that much time on this. but just know that there's other products in here that can help you to get through your detox if you don't already have them. Scales, thermometers, things like that. We've got a lot of different products that we're recommending now that are non-toxic. They're basically the safer products that we use and endorse. But I will come back to the fact that I have now released the Detoxination training, and there are still slots available, people, for saving 10% off of the $32.95. So if you want to save another 10% and come into the ranks of Detoxination, I would love to work with you. I need to get more people out there doing this because I just feel like being the only one is not a good idea. So we've got the training all figured out, and I'll upload it to Teachable so that you'll be able to learn how to become a detoxinician, which is probably the most rewarding thing I've ever been involved with. So I just love working with you guys. Okay, so that's the main thing right here that I've just added to the shop so that people can retain me for an hour. And again, it's billed in quarter-hour increments. So with that said, let me stop sharing and see if you guys have any questions to start out with while I take a sip of my throat coat tea. Okay, Beryl, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm new to this, so I apologize if I'm asking questions that are basic. What's the best intro source for this? I know someone who's done this protocol one time that I met because of mercury toxicity.
Okay.
And he speaks highly of it. But what's if I want to learn more about it, what's the best source?
So frankly, you have the option to go straight to getdetoxinated.com and read about how the protocol is, what it's all about. And I also offer a complimentary consultation so that I can work with you to understand your case, your situation, and make sure the protocol is appropriate for you. Because frankly, there are some contraindications and preclusions, and we want to make sure that you do qualify. There's the ones that are more important are things like pregnancy and breastfeeding. So those are definitely preclusions.
That's not an issue.
So, but
there are some other some other issues, lots of other issues that are also in conjunction with the mercury that I think it would be useful to talk over whether this would be the right the protocol for me given all the other things that are going on.
Absolutely. Please feel free to schedule a time with me. You might want to write this down. It's heal.me/detox. And that is the booking system where you can see my schedule and when I'm available. So
heal.me/detox.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, I look forward to meeting with you in private so we don't hash out your case here.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for doing this.
Yes, my pleasure. So anybody else have a question right away? I've got a few I could start with here.
I do have another question. When you were talking about L-arginine, are you suggesting that could be an alternative for the niacin?
No. In fact, the reason, and since you're new to this, the reason niacin is very, very needed for this protocol is it has a secondary effect that most people have never heard of. Most people have heard of flush, and the redness and itchy prickly sensation, but the vasodilation has a lot of value, and it was believed to be the reason that niacin was so important. But in reality, there was a secondary effect that was literally what was releasing toxins from fat or liberating fat stored xenobiotics, which is the fancy name for any fat soluble or fat attracted heavy metals and man-made chemicals that are foreign to the body. So, in fact, I love to talk about the difference between toxins and toxicants. Outside of the body, toxicants are, the heavy metals and man-made chemicals that are in the environment, or they're in the products we buy and things like that. But once they enter the body, they become what's called xenobiotics. So these xenobiotics are mostly lipophilic or fat soluble, and they will wind up not being processed by your liver. Your liver has no idea how to do anything with man-made chemicals. So for the most part, so they wind up actually getting sequestered in fat, somewhat as a protective mechanism, but literally they're fat soluble or fat attracted, which means that they will be more desiring to go into the fat, and that's where they wreak havoc. So We can further go down that path and talk about mitochondrial dysfunction, but just so you know, the niacin has this secondary effect, and it's the reason why it's so important. But the vasodilation usually has worn off by the time this secondary, what's called rebound lipolysis, occurs. And the L-arginine can help to actually recreate that vasodilation. So it allows the red blood cells to pump more freely through the capillaries out to the dermis layers, where then the sebaceous glands can sweat them out. That's an important factor, by the way, is that these are fat soluble. They're hydrophobic, so they won't come out through your watery eccrine sweat. No, okay. So anyway, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you.
You're on.
So I'll lob in a question, Dan. This is Kirsten. I'm here in my Halloween Zoom look. Sorry for the darkness. I just try to keep the lights down for a couple hours before bed, and it's almost 10 o'clock here in New England, or in Florida, rather.
Thank you for joining us, and nice to see you.
My spooky look.
Yes, I love it.
So I have a question, and I'm happy to share a little bit about how I'm doing at some point, because I'm amazed. But anyway, so let me ask you a question. You know, as I told you, I finished my first 30 days about 2.5 or 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, profound difference. I mean, I've struggled with pain now for 14 years of unknown origin, right? And was in a wheelchair like 6 years ago, and B vitamins, IVs got me out of that, but I still had another 50% of the pain to go. And I cannot believe the difference. And so, I mean, I could only sleep an hour and a half at a time for most of these years because of the pain. Yeah. Now I'm getting like 3 or 4 hours at a stretch, and lots of other things. But what I've noticed is that now as I get to the 3-week mark away, and I'm going to start another round soon as I can get this new sauna set up here in Florida, I've noticed a little bit of the creaking, more of the creaky achiness and pains starting to come back in. And I'm thinking that maybe what's happening is, like, I got cleaned out of the first, it's like levels of, geologic sedimentation, right? And you have to kind of peel it off the top, layer upon layer. And so now that I got some of the more reachable stuff out, now is the stuff starting to come back, maybe worked out of, I don't know, tissues or bones? And is this normal to sort of feel a little backsliding?
Yes, absolutely. And the reason is, if you recall, the studies that we've done on the original Hubbard method showed that the body burden reductions were about a third.
Right.
It's actually 30 to 65%, but it depended on the type of chemical or heavy metal, the amount of toxicity, the nature, like chronic or acute, body mass, and all these other things. So each 30-day program is going to reduce the body burden by about a third. And so it is like peeling back layers. Yeah,
and I've got gadolinium, so it's probably, you said 15 to 20%. So I'm planning on doing 6 or 7 rounds in the first year and a half. But yeah, I felt so amazing when I stopped for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm still feeling a lot better. But I was starting to feel the backsliding, and so I thought maybe this is normal.
Yes, it is, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it is important to understand that this is not a one and done. I know you already knew that, but the reality is that it's not a one and done. You really need to consider doing this protocol at least 2, if not 3 times for most people. But if you've been exposed, like you have, to gadolinium, which is, for those who don't know, the contrast dye that's used for MRIs, and that can really mess up a person's system in a major way, and it really should be outlawed. But unfortunately, the standard of care takes at least 10 years if they were even to start working on it today. So it's definitely going to be a problem for many years to come, and people with gadolinium toxicity are suffering from all kinds of weird symptoms, like brain zaps and electrical sensations throughout their body, severe bone pain, and all kinds of just bizarre symptoms. And so when somebody has gadolinium toxicity, the gadolinium we do think is only coming out by about maybe 15 to 20%. I mean, it's really lower than the average. And that's partly because it stores in bone. And the bone, like lead storing in bone, is not easy for most protocols to even touch. This one, fortunately, deals with the adipose marrow tissues, It also deals with the adipose brain tissues because the brain is 60 to 70% fat, not all of it being adipose, but the stuff that stores in brain, the stuff that stores in the bone and the adipose tissues, especially, we're able to get to that, but it's a more difficult process. So definitely people need to plan with gadolinium injections or poisoning that they're going to need to do at least 4, even with 1 injection. So, but the good news is we've been seeing people turn around in a major way, and we've got some folks that are in the group that would love to share their stories with you. So
Yeah, so
Dan.
will backsliding be just a little bit less maybe then with each round? I mean, or
Right.
I feel a little better with each round, but the
Yes.
backsliding is also a little bit less.
absolutely.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear any other insight of anybody else who
Yep.
had something like that.
Lee Weber, I have a comment on that. I'm not on my screen because I just got out of the sauna. I'm on day 26 of my 2nd round, and I have had a lot. My memory, my brain fog is so much better. I can actually look at a number and not have to look back. I can just write the whole number down without keep checking it.
You sound better too, Lee.
I have, yes, well, I believe it was the root cause of my Graves' disease, which as I've lost a severe amount of weight, so I don't have a lot of body fat. So my question was, I have had a lot of bone pain, like deep, like my bones hurt.
Yeah.
Is that from the gadolinium coming out of my bones? Do you think possibly that
Actually,
could
it's hard to tell if it's the gadolinium coming out of the bone or if it's just, the fact that gadolinium in bone does cause that severe bone pain. But ideally, we're going to see after another maybe 2 rounds of yours, of you going around through it, that you won't have that anymore. And in fact, gadolinium is such a weird metal that we have found that some people are more EHS or electro hypersensitive, the EMFs.
Yeah, I had a severe allergic reaction and
Yeah.
everything just bothers me. I'm very chemical sensitive.
Well, that too, the MCS is a whole other issue, but with the gadolinium, it resonates with certain Wi-Fi frequencies and 5G. And so my experience has been where I had a patient come to the center when I still had it, who when she came to the center, she didn't mention that she had fibromyalgia. And whenever I hear that, the first instinct is to put her on a beamer mat or a PEMF mat to get the microcirculation going and helping to get the chemicals that are actually to blame for fibromyalgia, just like most other conditions that have no known etiology. But anyway, she was going to use the beamer mat, and I put her on that first and then put her into the sauna. And she laid down on that thing, and you're not supposed to be able to feel that. But as soon as she laid down, she started squirming around and going, "Oh, this feels really nice." And I looked at her cockeyed going, "You don't feel that, do you?" And she said, "Yeah." And then, of course, I already had been told by her that she had a slip and fall accident on the job. She was a policewoman. And so, in fact, she's on the homepage of our website with her testimonials because she's had so many different things that were reversed by this program that she made that testimonial video. But anyway, she was had an MRI with contrast dye and hadn't really, made a big deal about that when she got to the center. So apparently she was feeling the gadolinium. Now, I've had other people in my Facebook group report that they've had gadolinium injections and they definitely feel Wi-Fi and 5G. And she was my first actual case study where I saw that in person. So anybody else had gadolinium and feel that?
Does it cause pain?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, does that cause pain when you feel Wi-Fi? If you've had gadolinium, will it cause pain or does it
It
just
can,
feel?
because that stuff is vibrating in the system.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense because I just moved into a place that has more, I'm closer to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I think I feel the difference.
Right.
Well, I just want to understand what you're saying about I've been doing Beamer every day for about 3 months, and I think it's helping with some of the physical pain. But I do notice, by the way, I can feel it. The higher the level, the more I can feel it, and I get tremors in my arms and my upper lip.
Okay.
When I'm relaxed, not when I'm not relaxed. If I'm looking at my phone, I'm not getting the tremors, but if I'm relaxed, I'm getting tremors. I wasn't sure if that was the mercury or the gadolinium. or it was good, something coming out of my, releasing from my body. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, and frankly, because I've seen it and heard about it so much, I do believe it's more the gadolinium. However, metals are all able to, I mean, not all metals, but they can, be electro and magnetic conductors. So they are, in fact,
Wow.
this is one of the things that I've had as a theory, and I've recently spoken with a gentleman that I have the highest esteem for. In fact, we're working together on the study, but I'm talking about Harold Zelliger. But anyway, he kind of agreed with my theory that heavy metals in the system are actually short-circuiting our electrochemical signaling that's going on in the body. So it's very possible that when we aggravate that with a PEMF mat, which is sending frequencies out through the coils, that the metals, it may be both the gadolinium and the mercury. We just don't know. But it's a situation where we're observing it. And I wish we could do more controlled studies like we used to do. But, without a center right now, it's kind of difficult. But I would love to be able to test some of this stuff out.
But do you think it's something that would be contraindicated for me to do,
No.
given the metals?
No, it's
The
a case of
to the beamer?
it's tolerate. If you can tolerate it,
Yeah, I
then
can tolerate it.
then continue with it. It is absolutely more helpful than it's going to be hurtful.
Okay. Okay. And aren't there EMFs that are emitted from a beamer mat?
It's
If they're sensitive?
they're frequencies that are designed for the body. So not all the EMFs are bad.
Because they're different, because of the lower waves or the.
Well, there's certain frequencies that we operate on that we resonate well with. In fact,
Okay.
infrared is a frequency.
Oh, it is. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is all very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely. Who's talking?
Hi, my name is Josh Walensky. My wife Lauren's name is on there.
Oh, okay. Hi, Josh.
How you doing? So I'll give you a little background. I had a double dose of gadolinium contrast about 20 days ago,
Okay.
and every day has just been worse. I tried taking a few things that I read online already. I don't know if I overdid it, but definitely was hurting.
What'd you take?
Niacin, zeolite, resveratrol, N-acetylcysteine, chlorella. I don't know. I was kind of just eating them all at once.
Sounds like it.
And yeah, just definitely bone pain, joint pain, very foggy, just not feeling good at all. Is it better to start this, like, the sooner the better, like after this, it's in me? Will it come out quicker because I start sooner? Or I know some people are like years in before they even realize that's what causes it.
Right, exactly. So the sooner you do get started with detoxing the gadolinium, the better. Out of curiosity, what inspired you to take niacin?
Just research, just reading everything I could for like 3 days.
Okay. So the reason I asked about the niacin is because there's an important thing you need to know about the protocol, our protocol, and that is that niacin is not detoxing anything. Okay, it's how
Okay.
it is used. It has a very specific dosing and timing. It has that secondary effect that we were just talking about. I think you were already in the call at that point, where rebound lipolysis is actually what's liberating toxins at a much higher level. And if you haven't watched the 48-minute video that I always link whenever I send these Zoom links out, please do watch that. I explain in great detail how the protocol works and why niacin is so important. It was believed many years ago that the flush was the reason why it was needed. We have done so much research on this protocol and came across some others' research. In fact, it was done, the research we found was done in 2000, and we didn't even find it until 2014. But that research is what led us from taking this, or being able to take this program from 4.5 to 5 hours a day for 30 days down to 2 hours a day, because the work was actually being done in the last 2 hours. So
Okay.
this is an important fact, that the niacin is not detoxing anything. To detox, you really have to have the material leave the body.
Right.
What niacin will do is actually redistribute whatever toxins are liberated if you happen to trigger what's called rebound lipolysis. So just know that you can't just take niacin and jump in a sauna. It doesn't work that way.
So the detox, it's coming out through your skin though?
Yes, and also through binders. We do use, I think you said zeolite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in fact, I recommend the Hyaltrophin brand, if you can see that.
Okay.
And this is in fact very good for people with gadolinium. And the reason for that is because, and the reason we know that, I should say, is because there was a contrast dye that was being tested, and the animal tests showed that this new product called Gadolite, which is zeolite chelated or bonded to the gadolinium before injection into the body, in the zeolite or the Gadolite, I'm sorry, format, there was zero retention of gadolinium in the body. It is the strongest chelating material. Now, when we put it through our system and get it into our gut, it's basically a binder. But there's another reason why I use that particular brand. It has, in fact, you have to buy the 3 times TMA or tribomechanical activation micronized zeolite, and it's from Slovakian ash. And the reason we use that is because the micron-sized particles are at 0.32 to 1.36, and they're small enough to interact with the villi in the small intestine and actually do chelate the blood passing through the villi, which is, if you don't know, that's where the nutrients from the food you're eating are absorbed into the bloodstream. So
Okay.
when you're taking that form of zeolite, you're getting it into not just the GI or the gut, the GI tract, all the way down into the small intestine.
Now it's coming out your skin, but are you also passing it through your kidneys too?
Well, the stool is where the zeolite comes out. So
Okay. I heard you say something about 10 to 15%. Were you saying that that's about all that comes out from the dose that you were given?
So
Because they tell you, oh, it's all going to be out of you in 24 hours.
right.
You know, like, do we know how much actually comes out like immediately?
I don't know if they really have any real basis for that data. They really don't have a clue that they're poisoning people. Some of them are finally hearing the word and seeing the studies and paying attention. In fact, I know of a few who've switched gears and are now helping people with it. But the thing is that, like I said before, it's a standard of care. It will not shift for at least another 10 years unless somehow, by act of God, maybe, that the medical industrial complex, as I love to call them, figure out that they are doing more harm than good with that contrast dye. Because do you know that most contrast or most MRIs really don't need that enhanced view?
Yeah.
But that's, I'm not a doctor. I can't.
I refused it the first time. I actually canceled the MRI, and then I caved, and I had myocarditis and I lost some heart function,
Oh, wow.
but it healed, and I was back good. My EF was good again based on echo. And then I had a bad reaction to a bee sting and some very strong steroids they gave me, and it kind of made my heart do some weird stuff again. So then they finally convinced me to go, and I'm just regretting it every second.
I'm sorry to see that they browbeated you like that. The thing is that this protocol, we are only able to estimate at this point what we think is being eliminated through a 30-day program. It is a more pernicious and pervasive type of poisoning, if you will.
Yeah.
I like to say that because that's what it is. One thing we haven't talked about is the fact that it not only attacks the bone, but it also attacks the skin. So that's a good thing because we can definitely sweat the stuff that's out at the skin layers out through the sauna. But the protocol is designed to liberate toxins from the fat, the adipose tissues, 3 times the normal levels that you are actually, releasing toxins. Maybe there's enough of a need for me to explain this. So there's a constant liberation of toxins coming out of fat due to your normal everyday activities. So whenever your body's producing what's called adenosine triphosphate energy or ATP energy from fat, there's going to be a release of some of the fat stored toxins. So that's the normal amount. And this is also why chelation works. So chelation is where they use a a chelating agent like EDTA or DPTA or DTPA, sorry. And they expect for that to pick up any metals that it can find in the blood, but there's not always a whole lot of metals, but there are always going to be some. So it works, but it takes a lot of rounds to get more and more of the stuff out, because you're constantly liberating whenever you're doing any activity. The function, by the way, that makes that work is that the word lipolysis means that the triglycerides in the fat, or the fat reservoir, is being split in a hydrolysis format into a glycerol and 3 fatty acids. And those are used by the mitochondria to produce that energy. It's like the fuel. So the free fatty acids, once they leave the fat cells, they have a siphoning effect, for lack of a better way to describe this. Some people will say that the fat is being like exploded, or it's somehow damaged. It's not. You wouldn't want that to happen. So the toxins are being liberated from fat at all times whenever you're doing anything that requires energy. So if you're doing a HIIT workout, you'll probably wind up getting a headache or nausea, because you've liberated toxins at a much higher level than normal. And the body's not doing anything to handle them, or you're not helping the body to handle them by doing the binders or the sauna, or normally that would be the case. So the headache and nausea that you feel after doing a HIIT workout isn't just lactic acid like they tell you. It's the xenobiotics. But when you're on our protocol, the niacin has this effect of depressing or inhibiting the normal lipolysis cycle for the entire time that niacin is metabolizing in the body. And it's about a 3-hour period that the niacin needs to metabolize. And once it has worn off, the body is able to resume lipolysis. And at that point, the body not just resumes lipolysis, it's like you've had a rubber band, like I normally would have one, but you dangle a rubber band in your fingers. This is normal lipolysis. This is you on niacin. And then after about 3 hours, it's like you shot that rubber band up in the air, and it's an overshoot. That's what it's typically called, but you'll find in the papers it's termed rebound lipolysis. And it triggers about 4 times normal levels of free fatty acids that are measurable in the blood plasma. And that's releasing 3 times the normal levels of toxins from fat. And that's why you do it, you time it carefully, you dose it carefully, because the body builds up a tolerance to the niacin. We also know that niacin needs to have a certain dose, 500 milligrams, to be able to register that type of rebound for most people. But men tend to be around a 10 milligram per kilogram dose. That's what we call target niacin dose. And that's because the body mass does play a role in it. So for a lot of people, 500 milligrams, we pretty much bet that they're at that point where they're triggering a rebound. But for most men who are of larger build, they're going to definitely need the 10 milligrams per kilogram. So once that dose is hit, then we know you're rebounding. And we know you need to be on our protocol and doing everything that we've identified as needed to make sure that you're either sweating out the toxins through the sebaceous sweat, or picking them up through the zeolite and through the binders in the gut, and also that you're doing everything you can to support like glutathione, so your liver detoxing works better. So everything that's on our protocol is designed to work synergistically. And that's why it's important that you have either the protocol guidebook or my book, or work with me in one of those fashions that I showed you in our online shop. Do you have any other questions then?
What was I going to ask? Now, are you doing like, is there ways to check, like, are you doing like unprovoked and provoked urine tests to see, is that how you're seeing that the numbers are coming down?
No, those tests are absolutely useless for that purpose. I'll tell you why. And we used to recommend like a provoked urine test, or even an unprovoked. And for those of you that don't know, that just means that they're given a chelating agent like EDTA in order to cause more of the whatever heavy metals or chemicals, whatever, to be, it's going to make higher levels because they're chelating and coming out through the stool, sometimes the urine. But anyway, the problem is that the tests themselves are only showing what the body's eliminating. they're not showing body burden. So you can't use them for a pre and post detox because you don't see body burden values. You just see increases in the amount of stuff being released. So when a person takes their first urine test, for example, and it'll be at this level, they want to see it at this level when they're done. The problem is it's going to be way up here because the body is now eliminating toxins at a much higher rate because all detox organs are getting involved when you are stimulating it the way we do. So you won't see a body burden reduction until probably after about maybe 4 of these programs if you've had gadolinium. So at that point, you should start to see things coming down. But I'll tell you what, the body has been shown in studies that it continues to detox for 4 months after somebody does this program. So I wouldn't even bother doing a post-detox urine test if you're going to do it until 4 months after your last round, if you've only had one gadolinium. So that'd be the 4th round.
Okay.
All right.
Would it still not show, like, if you did an unprovoked, like, so say I did like an unprovoked urine test now, it's going to show what I'm, excreting. And then after, 4 months later, ideally it would be less than what it is now, right? Would that not show some correlation?
Not after one. Not after one.
Well, okay. No, I mean, after however many you recommend.
Yeah. So if you were to do even an unprovoked, the thing is that the provoked is going to probably be a more realistic number that you can really sink your teeth into. They're just showing what the body's releasing. So,
Right.
All right. Anybody else have a question?
Can you talk a little bit about the saunas? I don't have one, but I'd like to get one.
Absolutely.
I don't think I could do the protocol without a sauna in my home. There's nowhere. I don't have time to do the dry sauna option and have it
Right.
take a long time because I don't have time.
Absolutely. And it's so much more convenient when you can do everything at home. And really saunas, although right now, of course, the economy's so bad and the inflation and interest rates and everything are so off. But I got to tell you, having a sauna in the household is the best thing you can do. I've had a sauna in my life since the 70s. I turned 60 last month, and I don't even feel it. I feel like a healthy 39-year-old. But I do sauna for 30 minutes every day, and it's an important part of my routine. I keep myself detox that way. I don't do the protocol every day or that much. I actually am due for a 14-day maintenance one. It's been, I'm sure, 3 years since my last one, but I do wait 2 to 3 years between them. But having a sauna in the home makes it so much better for a lot of reasons. One thing that I can tell you is that I represent about 5 different sauna manufacturers because I believe there's a need to have various options for people and their budgets and their space requirements and things like that. The smallest one that fits into most environments, I mean, it's literally less than 3 foot square, but it's still a cabin style, not a portable, is the Sunstream Mini. And I have a video on my website that I recommend people watch to see. It only took me 15 minutes, sight unseen, to assemble that sauna. And
Wow.
Yeah, and it was really so easy to do. It was the least expensive sauna in the cabin style that you can find. At the time of this recording, it's about $24.95. And it's a mighty little machine for the size. But the thing is that look at the different options that you have, because you want to look at the power requirements. You don't want to have to necessarily install new 20 amp service, 240 service if you don't have to. And but some people might want to. In fact, there's outdoor saunas that we can offer. There's the corner units, but we do recommend 2 brands of portable. And so just go look at the sauna selector guide on my online shop, and it'll give you some guidance as well as show you the different models. And I'd be more than happy to work with you to answer any questions directly. So take a look at that before we meet, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, I'll get my stuff scheduled and we'll talk more. Thank you.
Yes, my pleasure.
I could also add that I did my first month the protocol with a solo, which is one that you put on. It's hard. It's like half of a tube, and you put it on top of a bed if you have an extra bed in your house.
Yep.
So you kind of crawl in there, and your head is out, which I think has some advantages sometimes actually, because yeah, and it worked beautifully. It wasn't flimsy like a sauna blanket. They sell those things.
Yeah.
And it was probably the same price as the mini, but if you don't have a space to set up what is sort of looks like the size of a phone booth, and you have a bed, right? You can get in there every night
And you did the niacin
yeah, I did
protocol in that?
protocol, and that's what got
Wow.
me so much progress. I actually am getting the little phone booth one here in Florida in a couple of days, so I'll be able to really compare because I live in Vermont and Florida. But I really liked the bed top one, and it worked like a charm.
Yeah, in fact,
And
thanks for bringing that.
Thank you.
what's the name of that line? It's your high-end line, Dan.
So Clearlight has the curved
Clearlight.
dome, and that's also in the online shop. You'll be able to see that.
Yeah, it's a Clearlight Dome,
Yeah,
DOM.
it's called the curved dome. Yeah. In fact, they've got a newer version of it. They've got two models now. I just learned about one of them. The one that I've known for a while has a hemp covering, and it's lightweight because of that. The new one I haven't really spent any time digging into, but what I've heard about it is it's got a different shell, but the bottom mat is actually a beamer or a PEMF mat. So they combined the infrared with the
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. I have a question, Dan. I about like 6 years ago, I got a vibration plate, right? Because I was thinking that could strengthen me or help me somehow, but it was a disaster, probably
Oh,
because
really?
yeah, because of all the stuff in my system. Whenever I would stand on it for a minute, I would feel nauseous, like within a minute or two, and really
Wow.
more pain. And I think what it was doing, it was just shaking. It's like you said, athletic activity can shake heavy metals out of your cellular structure. So I just wasn't unable to use it. But now as I'm getting better, I look at that, I still have it. And I think, could that be an alternative to the treadmill to get my stuff flowing through my system, before I crawl into the sauna?
Yeah, the vibration plates are absolutely acceptable as a replacement or a form of exercise on our program. Remember, we're not doing a workout. We're doing a low impact aerobic exercise just to get the heart rate up to push more blood out to the dermal layers. But I mean, for people who can't even exercise, we talk about the Tony Robbins priming exercise. You can find that on YouTube. There's a couple of videos that I've seen. I think they're the same episode, same show, just two different videos. All we care about with that, by the way, is the very first section of that video, because he's doing a breathing technique through his nose and throwing his arms up and down into the air. I sometimes will do that, but not today. Anyway, yeah. Well, you're all right. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
Oh, it's up.
yeah.
the arm part of that was too much for my shoulders.
Oh,
I
really?
paid-
Okay.
I paid dearly for that. But I can walk uphill in a treadmill. It's just that
Good.
I was wondering if that other thing would be an alternative now.
Yeah. Well, the vibration plate is definitely one we know can help stimulate the blood flow and lymphatic system. So
Right.
it does both.
Yeah, we've also had a lot of success with the use of the Chi machine.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, Chi machine is something we've used at the center for people who are absolutely unable to exercise. And if you've never seen a Chi machine, look it up. I am a representative for them, but I haven't been pushing them. The Chi machine has an interesting method to it. It's designed around the original ninja training, where one ninja would grab the ankles of one other ninja laying down, and using an infinity motion would stimulate the whole body moving like a fish in water. And the Chi machine automates that whole process, and it's really kind of interesting. You really do feel it after about 8 minutes of sitting, or laying down with your feet up in the stirrups. So check that out if you are having any problems with exercise. That is something that, thanks, Melody, for bringing up.
There are knockoffs of it also, and all of the research was done on it, and the angle, the speed, and so on is really important. So watch out for the ones that have variable speed or variable angles, because that was all of the science was behind getting the exact motion.
Exactly. Thanks, Ken. Any other questions? I do have a couple if nobody has anything to ask at this point, but if you do, please chime in.
Well, I do have one other question about hypometabolism. Is this what are your thoughts on this being a good protocol for hypometabolism?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I'm looking forward to talking with you in a meeting because definitely you've got to realize that xenobiotics in the system are not just causing mitochondrial dysfunction, they're causing all kinds of issues, especially with the metabolism. And in fact, one of the main ways people, can see that is the stubborn fat. So
Is
once
the what?
stubborn fat.
Oh, yeah.
So when the xenobiotics are in fat, they can totally disrupt that fat cell's ability to produce ATP energy and basically
Yep.
cause it to become stagnant, where it attracts more lipids and more lipophilic xenobiotics. And so until you get the fat actually detoxed, it's not going to participate in the ATP energy production cycle. So you really need to get that cleaned out if you want to get rid of that stubborn weight. We are not a weight loss business, just so you know, but it's a side benefit. It just puts us in a whole different category if we start advertising it as a weight loss program. So we just say it's a side benefit, and it's a very good one. So
Get that stubborn belly fat gone.
you betcha. Okay, so I don't know how to pronounce the name well enough, so I'm going to butcher it, but it looks like Naima. And if she's not on the show with us tonight, I'm going to go ahead and read the question. I get the feeling she's not in our time zones here. She says, when I hit the target niacin weight, 55 kg, I'm sorry. So my target, all right, her English is obviously not her English is not her first language. When I hit the target niacin, and then she put in parentheses, I weigh 55 kilograms, so my target is 550 milligrams. That is correct. I would round that up to 600. Should then from that day increase 100 milligrams niacin every day up to 1,000 milligrams. And then from 1,000, how much should I increase? Okay, so understanding that we're overcoming the body's tolerance to niacin, I don't know where this 1,000 milligram came into play. In fact, if anything, that sounds more like the Hubbard method of dosing. So I will say that that 1,000 milligrams is not even an issue with our program. You're just going to continue to titrate up and get over the body's tolerance each day to the niacin. And at a point 3 days prior to the ending of a program, so if it's a 30-day program, on day 27, that's your last high dose. From that day forward, you taper off, and you can taper off however you want. It can be 500 milligrams less each day. It can be 25% off, which is what I do. I do 25, 50, and then 75% off the last high dose. But as long as you're not taking more niacin and you're not, it's okay to quit cold turkey with the niacin. It's just that, if you're told not to do that with psych medication, why not taper off and give your body a more gentle exit strategy, if you will, because it's gotten so used to the buildup of that niacin, and then you quit cold turkey on it. I don't think that's good. So we taper off, and it also prevents you from triggering any more rebound lipolysis, and it also allows the body to process whatever toxins have been liberated in the last 72 hours. There's a whole thing in the video, the 48-minute video about that. There's a 72-hour window that we are concerned with. So anyway, I think from her standpoint, I pretty much answered those questions. So there's another question from, I think, Huda. And there's several of them. So let's see. When should I take a binder when doing the niacin and sauna protocol along with supplements? So it's important for people to understand that if you're asking questions like this, it has me concerned that you haven't read through the protocol guidebook or my book, or really have worked with me, because this is so timed. Everything about this protocol is so well timed, and we've got it dialed to the point where there are certain things, like the binders are taken at different times. One of them is the activated charcoal. It's taken right before you go into the sauna the first time. And then throughout the rest of the day, you want to be keeping your GI tract totally covered with zeolite. So it's approximately every 4 hours, you're going to be doing a scoop size, about a teaspoonful of zeolite in an 8-ounce glass of water. So anyway, it's important that you guys understand you should have the protocol guidebook, or I mean that's $14.99, or my book $24.95. Get the instructions to do this right, because you can, basically not get the results you're looking for, and you can suffer through it in a way that you didn't have to. The other question is, when should I take a binder when doing, oops, that's the first one. I have mold sickness, black mold from the house. Has anybody, he said has anybody been cured using this protocol? Ooh, that's a nasty word. We don't use cured. You can't do that. So we have definitely seen mold mycotoxins detox out of the body, and people with mold conditions have had their conditions reversed, but don't cure anything, remember. And then the last question is, what kind of binders do you recommend? And I know I've already shown the hyalotropin zeolite, which is, by the way, on the online shop in the detox support products. The other one is activated bamboo charcoal, by the way. That's the other one that we use. So there's a couple of brands, Takasumi and Dr. Jerry Tennant's bamboo charcoal. So anyway.
Dan, I put something in there about a book I read recently that I bet you've read too, The End of Alzheimer's.
No, I've heard about it, but I have not yet bought it. Thank you for bringing that up.
There's a fascinating connection. I mean, this is a guy who's as integrative as I've ever seen in the world of neurology. And he contends that there's 3 causes of Alzheimer's, and one of them is toxins, including heavy metals. And he writes a bunch about that. And he talks about how, the world is telling us we can't prevent Alzheimer's, but he says we can. He says there's, he has a lab, he's had a lab on Alzheimer's and dementia for 30 years at UCLA. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And he says, he's isolated 36 factors that cause Alzheimer's and dementia, and so there'll never be a pill, that can deal with all those factors. But I always thought that my husband and I both, for example, could be vulnerable to Alzheimer's because of all the inflammation we've had, but for very different reasons. And he said, there's three causes of Alzheimer's. One is inflammation, which is often caused by food and parasites. The second is lack of certain molecules the brain needs, including nutrients, but also things like BDNF, which I think saunas help with, right? And then the third was toxins.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's why I've had the toxins. My husband doesn't eat very well, but that both causes inflammation, but from very different sources, right? So it's a fascinating book. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, thank you for that. In fact, I've been aware of things like aluminum and fluoride and other, mercury's up there, of course, but there's definitely a connection with Alzheimer's and with the xenobiotics that are in the brain. And so, I trust that by doing our protocol myself and doing sauna daily, that I am not at risk, and knock on wood. But that's the thing. I know that there is a connection. That's an interesting fact that he's connected. I think you said 13 different.
36.
36. Wow.
Yeah.
I was reading the chat
and he said,
and didn't pick
so
that up.
he and his team designed plans for people, and you can't hit on all of them, but you don't need to hit on all of them, just enough. Once you know your genetics, right, which is that $100 screening test, then you can attack as many of the 36 factors as you can, either to prevent or even start to turn back early dementia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I thank you for reminding me about that book, and that's definitely one I want to read. But I think also it sounds like I need to get a hold of him.
Yes, absolutely. He sounds like a fabulous guy, and he's very brave to say some of the things he says in that book as somebody in the middle of the medical establishment at UCLA.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you for that. So how are we doing on time, guys? 7:27. Anybody else have any questions you want to throw in? I usually like to keep these down to about an hour.
Do have one of if you have time.
Yeah.
Back to the saunas. And I know that some saunas are better about EMFs than others. Does your website
I only
in
I only
the sauna
recommend
review?
I only recommend the lowest EMF saunas and the lowest VOCs. I mean, there are no VOCs with these, but there are the two portable brands that all bets are off with VOCs. So you let them off gas, maybe let them sit out in the sun for a couple of hours or whatever. But you can't get away from the VOCs with the portable. But the EMFs, the three manufacturers I recommend are Clearlight, Radiant Health Saunas, and Sunstream. So
Wait, say that again. Clear light.
Clearlight, Radiant Health, and Sunstream. Now, be warned, folks, the Radiant Health saunas have a knockoff competitor, the Radiant saunas, and you can find those, I think, at box stores or something like that. Be warned, those are not the same. So, and again, on my website, I show all the different models, and the space and power requirements are also listed there. I try to give you as much data as I can possibly give you to help you to make the best choice for your situation.
Thank you.
Okay. So anybody else? Going once, going twice. Okay, then I think, oops, there's a new message. Let's see what we got in here. Scroll down to it. Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, so folks, again, thank you for joining me. And this has been a really interesting show, and I like the turnout. So I can't wait to see you guys next month. It'll be the third Tuesday again. I have no idea what time or date that is, but I can look. So looks like, whoa, that's the 21st. Okay, so November 21st. That's
Okay. Same time.
yeah, 6:30 PST, Pacific Standard Time. So we'll see you all then. And again, thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your nights or evenings or what have you. So we'll
Thank
talk.
you so much for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, guys. Good night.